Hi, my name is DiTullio. I'm a PhD student here at Penn. I'm going to talk today a little bit about my research using computational neuroscience to study how we hear. So there's three main takeaways, main bullet points for this video. So the first one is just to give you a sense of why hearing is cool, why I chose to study it, kind of how impressive it is that we are able to hear it all. Secondly, I want to go into my specific project and give you a sense of what I mean when I say the brain is learning an auditory object. And then finally, I want to talk about computational neuroscience kind of in general more. Why it's a really cool and powerful way to study the brain, and how it both helps us study the brain and can sometimes give us new technologies that can help us in our day-to-day lives. So first off, to kind of motivate this, let's think about hearing. So like a lot of our senses, we kind of usually take it for granted and don't really think about it. But when you stop to think about it, it's really cool. Imagine you're at your friend's concert and there's a singer, there's a bass player, there's a drummer, there's a guitar player. They're all playing together to play the song. You can pay attention to any one particular person that's playing. You can listen to the drums and the specific beats they're playing. You can listen to the bass lines, or you can try to listen to the words that your friend wrote for the lyrics. And you can switch between those things effortlessly. So that ability to switch is really cool. You also don't get confused on what things are supposed to sound like. So what I mean by that is no one's going to hit a drum and you're going to think someone's playing a guitar. That's an auditory object. It's what are the sounds that something can make, what is the sound of something, whether it be a guitar or now the sound of my voice. So that's hearing, that's kind of what an auditory object is. That's what we want to study. The brain is clearly able to do this, but how? So this is where computational neuroscience comes in. We try to use math to help us better understand the brain, and then try to use the insights we gain from that to help us make better technologies for people's day-to-day lives. So for the first part of that loop, how are we going to use math to help us learn how the brain learns auditory objects? So the basic way this ends up working is that we come up with a mathematical framework, which is something that we can understand, we can write it out, we have some intuition about, and then we try to go test if that's true in experiments. So for auditory objects, the framework we use has a very fancy name, but actually makes a lot of intuitive sense, and it's called Temporal Continuity learning. Okay, so let's break that down, and to break that down, need my bottle. So the fundamental premise or the logic behind how this framework works is that first, objects persist over time. That if there's a ball in my hand now, then a second from now there'll probably still be a ball in my hand. It won't pop in and out of existence. If it was, you'd probably be a little worried. The second thing is that the features of objects usually change smoothly and coherently over time. So for example, the color of this will change a little bit based on the lighting, but it's the same color. Or if I move it side to side, all the things that make up this bottle will move as well. And even when I rotate, the shape changes a little bit, but it changes this kind of smooth and coherent way. So that's what we mean when we say temporal continuity, is that the object itself and all of its features are continuous across time. And the math behind it, or why this is nice, is we can then learn objects by trying to learn things that change in that smooth and continuous way. And we have a lot of math already for describing how things change over time. So great, we have this mathematical framework, we have some ideas based on it, now let's go test it. So how do we test this? So I actually test this in human participants and people. And what we have them do is we have them try to learn a new auditory object. So specifically, we have them try to learn a chord. So it's not a musical chord, just because we didn't want to bias our results and have musicians be better at this task than other people. But it is still a chord, it's a grouping of 3 notes. So we play this new chord that they never heard before, and we essentially ask them to learn that that's the auditory object, the relationship between the notes. Then we will mess with one of the notes, we'll either move it up or down, or we won't move it, and we'll ask them, hey, did something change, or is this still the same object from before? The idea being, if you've really learned the object, you should be able to tell if something has changed. Like if you know what a bottle is, then you can tell if the color of the bottle has changed, or if it's been chipped, or if it's broken. So that's the basic test that we're doing, and the way that we're testing the theory is that we have specific guesses of what should happen, what objects people should and shouldn't be able to learn based on how we present them. So we have one case where we present where we think people can learn it, another case where we can't, according to this theory, and we're going to see if that's the case. Now, to very quickly do the other side of the loop, so we talked about the first part where this is how we're using math to help us better understand the brain. What use can this be to us in the general world? Well, I'm sure people have had very rough experiences with Siri in a crowded room, or Alexa, where it cannot pick up your voice over all the people talking around you, which is very different from our experience, right? You can always pay attention to your friend even if you're in a crowded environment. So what we're hoping is by studying the brain and how we're able to do this, we can use that, the math that we figure out from that essentially to build better technology so that your phone can do this and Alexa can do this, so you don't have to make everyone quiet at the dinner table so that you can change the music or set a timer. So to recap real quickly, we talked about hearing, why it's impressive. It's a really cool ability that we have. We talked about auditory objects, that is the sounds that something can make or the sound of something, and my project on studying how the brain is able to learn those. And we talked about computational neuroscience and why it's a powerful framework that we use math to help us better understand the brain and hopefully gain insights that then help us make better technologies. All right, thank you for your time.